This is All of It. I'm Alison Stewart, live from the WNYC studios in Soho. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. I'm really grateful you are here. On today's show, we'll speak with actor Michael Fassbender, who stars as a CIA operative in the new series, The Agency. We'll continue our full bio conversation with Peter Ames Carlin, the author of The Name of This Band is REM, a biography. And now on to our week in film. Yesterday, we spoke with Lily Rose Depp and Robert Eggers about Nosferatu. Tomorrow, we'll speak with Peter Sarsgaard about September 5. But today, we begin the show with the extraordinary new film, The Brutalist. All right, this is the only real spoiler I will give you from the acclaimed film, The Brutalist, and it's from the opening. You see the Statue of Liberty upside down in a frame, and slowly as the camera turns, it turns right side up, and you realize this is how our protagonist, Laszlo Toth, is introduced to our country. You see it from his point of view, from the ship that he's been in. He is traveling, escaping really, from Budapest in the 1940s, hoping his wife will join him one day. He lands in Ellis Island with nothing except his cousin's address. Laszlo was a well-known architect trained at Bauhaus, but now he just wants a place to lay his head. When a wealthy man finds out Laszlo's backstory, he asks him to build a huge community building on a hillside in Pennsylvania, a gift to the community and a monument to himself.
It is no coincidence that fate brought us together on the eve of my mother's death. I'm good at reading the signs.
Sir, I do not know what the commission entails.
We'll talk about the details at home, but you'll be well compensated. And also, you'll be given a place here on the property to live and work. I think that residing here will allow you the time and the space to conceive of it properly. And your family, should they arrive, they're welcome here too. What do you say?
I would like to draw something and present it to you.
You'd like to win the commission. All right, you can do that. It's cold. Let's return inside. Come on.
The arc of The Brutalist follows Laszlo as he attempts to find his American dream without giving up important parts of himself, his pride, his family, his sense of self, in a country that tells him, that he tells his wife, doesn't want him. The 3-hour-plus film has been earning extraordinary reviews. It won Best Picture and Best Actor at the New York Film Critics Award, and it's nominated for 7 Golden Globes. It's set to open on December 20th, but New Yorkers can catch the film in 70mm on Thursday. I'll explain why you might want to do that in just a minute. Joining me now are its co-writer and director and New Yorker, Brady Corbet. Hi, Brady.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for joining us. And in the role of Laszlo Toth, Academy Award winner and New Yorker, Adrien Brody. Hi, Adrien.
Hey there, how you doing?
I'm doing well. So, Brady, you were originally supposed to start shooting around 2020. There was COVID, delays in shooting. There were many, many changes. What changed for this film in those 2 or 3 years?
Well, I think when my wife and I finished the draft, we suspected it might take a while, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yes.
Of course, no one could have anticipated the shutdowns due to COVID in 2020. But we knew that one way or another it might take a while. And I've always said that making a movie, it's a marriage. It's not a one-night stand, and you have to choose material and themes that you're happy to live with for a decade or however long it takes. I mean, look at Francis's film Megalopolis has been in the works for 30-something years.
Adrien, this particular immigrant experience, a talented architect trying first to just survive and then build a life in America. What did the script for The Brutalist say about that experience that you hadn't seen in film before?
It is it's a really telling story, not only of the immigrant experience, but the journey for any artistic person and their pursuits. and and the complexities of the American dream, and all of this it just spoke to me. I found this incredibly moving and personal to me in many ways, obviously, but my mother's journey as a New York photographer and artist began when she and her parents emigrated to New York, fleeing Hungary in the 50s during the Hungarian Revolution. And all of it speaks to all of these things that I think are very relatable to many people in our country. And so I felt it was it was both very intimate and extremely grand, as it's a several decades span of this journey of Laszlo's life that we experience, and to be transported through this one individual's journey into America is really profound.
And we'll give Sylvia Plahia a shout out there. Brady,
Thanks.
After Ellis Island, the early part of the story takes place in Pennsylvania. Why Pennsylvania?
Oh, simply because many mid-century designers at the time were sort of stationed all over the Northeast. So it was just historically accurate, and Guy's character was, at least partially inspired by Barnes of the Barnes Foundation. And so that's why.
The film travels quite a bit. How many locations did you shoot in?
Oh, we shot all over the world, but the film was shot very quickly. It was shot in a total of 33 days, which actually normally on an independent film would have been sufficient. But in this case, because the screenplay was about 170 pages long, it was a lot to pack in. But we had skeleton crews in a much smaller footprint when we went to shoot in the marble quarries in Carrera, for example. So some of it was shot like a student film, and then there's other days when we had 250 people on set.
Adrien, it's a long film. A long film requires a lot of you. You're in nearly every scene and very emotional scenes, even though it was only 33 days. How did you keep yourself sort of engaged that long?
Oh, I have no problem with getting engaged with things that speak to me. And I'd been really yearning for a collaboration with a filmmaker like Brady for many, many years, someone who has this tremendous capacity for understanding for so much that is going on in the world, and so much history and such a knowledge of film and love of film. So for me, it was a pleasure. There is just sheer physical exhaustion that we all endured, because it was a Sisyphean task for all of us, especially for Brady. Just the enormity of and complexity of the material to be told in such a finite amount of time with limited resources is really just an accomplishment in and of itself. But we were very we were in the throes of it through the whole time. It was quite immersive.
Brady, there's this intermission, and it's a time for us as the viewer to sort of gather your thoughts, gather yourself, think about what you saw, and then you're ready for the next part. When did you realize this was going to be a long movie?
Well, the intermission was scripted, and we knew, we only did 2 drafts, and the first draft was already well over 150 pages, and then with the second draft, it grew a little bit. It was a big story. We always knew that it spanned over 30 years in this character's life, and I think that time and the passage of time is a very important ingredient in the recipe, because by the time the film comes to its conclusion, you've really lived a life with these characters. And look, I think we all know that we've all seen films that are 80 minutes long that feel like they're 3.5 hours long, and so the intention was not to make something which was durational. I mean, like there's actually a lot of durational cinema that I really, really love, but the idea with this film was to make something quite propulsive. It's just a big story. And for the intermission, I get so stressed out when I go to see long films, and I don't want to step out to use a restroom because I don't want to miss anything. But it kind of it makes the experience pretty uncomfortable. So and we had a solution for this, 75 years ago, the intermission. I also think it's great for the communal movie-going experience, and I'd like to see it come back if a movie's over 3 hours long, especially.
We're discussing.
You see how considerate he is?
We are discussing the film The Brutalist, about an architect who emigrates to America and struggles to create a life. I'm speaking with Brady Corbet, who co-wrote and directed the film, and Adrien Brody, who plays Laszlo Toth. He is our protagonist. Adrien, as you develop the character of Laszlo, what does Laszlo hope for when he gets to the States?
Well, look, he's fleeing such oppression. Laszlo survives enduring the concentration camps. He's forcibly separated from his wife. And, he's an established architect. And really all of everything has been stripped from him. And it's really about beginning again. And so the hopes of finding, peace and freedom of persecution, and to come to America and assimilate and begin again, and hopefully find opportunities to find creative fulfillment. They're all the yearnings of anyone fleeing hardship abroad. It's very similar to many people's stories, if they're lucky enough to escape something as horrific as that time in history.
It's really interesting. Early on, he's with his cousin, and he realizes his cousin has changed his name, and he marries a Catholic girl. In that moment, why does Laszlo seem either confused or confounded by this?
Well, it is quite confounding. I think it's a complex thing to witness. And there's a degree of humor in it too. I think it's a bit absurd to Laszlo. I think my feeling is that he doesn't quite understand or relate to the need or desire to assimilate in that capacity, in a land like the United States, where these freedoms should be our right. And it seems, I feel that he's reading, he's learning. He's just got his feet on the ground, and he's seeing what his cousin is doing and willing to do. And I think it's a moment of contemplation and revelation, and it speaks to the circumstances for immigrants coming to America.
Adrien, your body changes a lot in the film. In the beginning, you're sort of stooped a little bit. And then once he's in charge, once he's running a site, he sort of strides when he walks, Laszlo. Mm-hmm. How did you decide how to carry yourself in the film?
Alison, I really appreciate that question. I don't, sometimes there's a very intentional choice made, and sometimes it is invoked through material and connection emotionally to the journey. And, it's such a harrowing journey to imagine, and it's so beautifully shot by Brady and Lowell Crawley, our wonderful DP, and the way that the opening, the disorientation of the opening sequence is so visceral and telling of what that experience must be like, and to kind of come out of the depths and darkness of the hull of a ship and emerge into the light and witnessing the epic beauty of the Statue of Liberty, even if it's askew, and all that symbolism, which is just also beautiful. But I feel like all of that leans into a state of being for me to exist in. And then as moments of, I guess, the foundation is rebuilt, then you somehow can stand taller and more erect, and you will have a renewed sense of pride and strength.
Brady, Guy Pearce plays this wealthy man, Harrison Lee Van Buren, who sort of takes a shine to Laszlo, but it's more like I have this fancy thing. I have this fancy architect in my world. What were your thoughts on creating Van Buren, and what qualities did you want him to have?
Well, of course, the entire film is about the sort of dynamic between a patron and an artist, and that sort of tug of war between art and commerce, which, anyone that's in a creative profession is sort of accustomed to dealing with. I mean, we had extraordinary partners on this film that were really, really good to us. But of course, I've worked on projects, with financiers that made, my wife's life and my life very, very challenging. And we wrote this screenplay as a sort of exorcism, a way for us to process a lot of our own trauma and frustrations with experiences that we've had in the past. But the thing that's so fantastic about Guy Pearce, and he really understood this, from the screenplay, is that the character had to have real charisma. The character has real taste. He had to be interested in modernism for him to finance this project, which Adrien's character helms. And so it was important to us that even though he's very much an antagonist that feels very of the era. I mean, he belongs in a mid-century melodrama. That there's nuance and complexity and many, many, many shades of gray with him. And Guy just, understood that intuitively and really delivered on that.
Let's listen to a clip from The Brutalist. I'm going to describe it a little bit because we're radio. Van Buren has hired him to build this monument to himself. It's a community center as well. He's invited him to dinner. He's brought his wife, who's made it over, and he is shocked to know that she's a woman with a brain. And at the end of this clip, we'll hear him flip a coin in Laszlo's direction, and he sort of expects him to pick it up. This is from The Brutalist.
Erzsébet, pardon me, am I pronouncing that correctly?
That's fine. Just fine. Feel free to call me Elizabeth if you prefer it.
And your English is impressive.
Thank you. I attended university in England.
Oh, where?
Oxford, to study English. And I returned home for communications.
And did you do anything with that?
Yes. I wrote for a popular national paper at home. Magyar Nemzet.
A journalist.
Cultural?
Foreign affairs.
Well, perhaps you can help your husband sound less like he shines shoes for a wage.
Haven't you told them anything about me?
Laszlo, how long have you been here now? 4, 5 years? You have no excuse anymore. I'm sorry, I got a little carried away there. Will you please pass that back?
Adrien, what does Laszlo see as his options in that moment?
Well, this is a profound moment and statement, and as Brady alluded to, some of the complexities of having a patron or a benefactor, that it lords over you, and there's a bit of psychological warfare that's at play here. I don't think he has many options, unfortunately, which is he has to eat it, and eat the comment and the many comments and all that is not so subtly inferred in his gesture.
We're discussing the film The Brutalist, about an architect who emigrates to America and struggles to create a life. I'm speaking with Brady Corbet, who co-wrote and directed the film, and Adrien Brody, who plays Laszlo Toth. He's our protagonist. Okay, we've talked about it. I know you've talked about it. VistaVision you used to shoot this film. All right, here's the definition I found, and then I'm going to ask you to go for it. It says, VistaVision is a high-resolution widescreen process that uses 35-millimeter film. Unlike most other types of filmmaking, the VistaVision camera processes involving turning the film stock on its side so that the perforations are at the top and the bottom of the image instead of on the left and right. This allows for an image space 2 times the size of traditional 35-millimeter. Did I get it right?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
You nailed it.
When did you decide to use VistaVision, and where do you think we can see it in the film?
The camera was engineered in the 1950s, and so it was a natural choice for a film that's predominantly set in the mid-century. And I had always wanted to work on a large format, and it hadn't worked out for me until this project. It's such a beautiful format, and essentially, it's what it does, especially for capturing architecture, is that it allows you to be physically close to a building or an object, but because of its field of view is so immense, you can see from the ground to the sky, even with a 6 or 7 story building, without any distortion. So it just you relate to architecture and landscape and the human face differently than you do with a traditional 35-millimeter camera. And any film shot on celluloid, whether it's 8-millimeter, 16-millimeter, 35, 65, is a precious gift these days, because there are fewer and fewer films that still shoot on celluloid. But for me, it's really the best tool that we have, and it's important for us to protect it, because it's very, very precious, and I want to make sure that future generations always have that tool in the kit when they reach for it.
The movie is titled The Brutalist. It's a form of architecture. Think like Chatham Towers downtown or the Fashion Institute of Technology in Chelsea. Adrien, what kind of research did you do into architects, and did you find a detail that you were able to use?
Well, Brady and I first of all, I have loved Brutalist architecture and some of the structures very much, and I always look out for them when I'm traveling abroad. It really speaks to the era and of kind of a resilience and a need to rebuild and looking ahead. And I think that it's informed so much great architecture beyond that style of work in particular. But unfortunately, this is an amalgamation of many characters, because in Brady and Mona's research, there were no surviving Bauhaus era Eastern Central European architects after the Nazi occupation. And so there were none who had endured that and made it to the United States. The ones who have left their mark, like Marcel Brauer, who did formerly the Whitney, but the Met Brauer, but they left earlier. And there were many architects like Louis Kahn, Mies van der Rohe, cetera, that we were able to, incorporate elements of their work and personalities. But this is a fictional character out of necessity.
Adrien, if someone follows you on Instagram, you are always so grateful. You post these great videos. I've seen you around town doing it. What makes you so grateful?
Oh, I am grateful. Every day I am kind of in awe of, first of all, the love that I have received from so many people as a result of my work and this communion that I have with so many people, not just members of my community and my city where I grew up and my neighborhood, but when I travel throughout the world, I encounter people every day who are somehow moved by something that I've shared. And, I strive to find meaningful work like this for that very reason, so that in things that feel worthy of discussion and circumstances that I'm fortunate enough to not have to endure should be recognized because others are enduring that, and should be represented, and we should all be conscious of that and open to everyone with the same level of respect that we crave ourselves. And I'm grateful because I do receive a lot of respect and love, and I have a great capacity to reciprocate.
The Brutalist opens nationwide on 12/20. I've been speaking with Adrien Brody and Brady Corbet. It was really nice speaking with both of you.
Oh, Alison, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. This was lovely.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. Appreciate it.